How does prolonged guilt affect one's ability to be authentic?
Guilt prevents us from growing because it puts us in a victim mindset. Self-forgiveness is giving yourself grace. The grace you expect from others, you extend that to yourself as well. The truth about guilt is a sign that you have a conscience. Guilt is a sign that you want to do better.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we'll be talking about a pretty much an interesting topic, which is authenticity and self-forgiveness. How they correlate, if one can go without the other, or how fast you can actually build one character as opposed to the other. So, throwing the question out there, from your perspective, what do you think? How would you explain authenticity and forgiveness or forgiveness?
I think personally, being authentic is just being true to oneself. And it does encompass quite a number of things, such as, your values, your beliefs, not conforming to the society you live in or the environment, just being in alignment with your true self, right? I think that is being authentic. And self-forgiveness is, in a way, it's giving yourself grace. And we've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast. It's giving yourself grace. The grace you expect from others, you extend that to yourself as well. I think for me, those would be the two things. And this is where things get a little bit sticky. It's simply because just because you've given yourself grace doesn't mean you don't have to do the work. Right? You have to forgive yourself. And forgiveness or self-forgiveness also goes hand in hand with self-love and self-care. And self-love is just a deep appreciation for yourself, right? If you're forgiving yourself, you understand, you meet yourself where you are. Just the same way you expect others to meet you where you are. And self-care is the actions you're doing, to maintain your mind, your body, and soul. You can put it in other terms, you can say, to take care of yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, and you want to put psychologically, that would fine. But it's just taking care of yourself, right? And those are my definitions for those things. And I'll pass it on and see what you think about it.
So yeah, I see authenticity as being your true self, like you just said. I agree with your point. Aligning in alignment with who you really are, and not what we think we're supposed to be, but really who we are. And there are a couple of factors that we have to consider to really know that we're authentic with ourselves. Like, are you in a situation where you have to hide who you really are, or for the most part, do you feel yourself, like your real self? Those two things are factors that can help us tell if we're really being authentic to ourselves. Self-forgiveness is, just as the set of words imply, just to give yourself some break. Don't pound yourself too much. It's not, first of all, forgiveness is not like, going hard at yourself and not forgiving yourself, like giving yourself a break and always thinking all the time that you've done something that's warranted a certain experience or results. So we should also know we're not perfect, and we should be able to at least give ourselves some breathing space to recover or get back on track. And that's my little definition of both self-forgiveness and authenticity. And so, if you have something to say or
well, you guys pretty much said it all. I just like to chip in that sometimes, like you rightly said, authenticity is kind of being in line with what your true values are, what you are like, as a person, as a being. And self forgiveness actually comes in when you see your blessing. It might be an action you took, something you said or anything. Being able to like recognize that, oh, this thing I did it. That's where holding one accountable for their action or for the result of their action comes into. So I'd say you guys have pretty much said it all. And being able to self-forgive, I think it's something that most people mistake for, like being able to self-forgive actually kind of is the driving force for you to actually want to grow in life in general.
Right. And authenticity also encompasses self-awareness, because you have to be aware of yourself, aware of your strength, aware of your quirks, aware of your fears, and then also self-awareness, self-acceptance and self-awareness, both of them work hand in hand to be able to tell if actually you're being authentic with yourself right now or in any situation you find yourself. So you need to know yourself well by knowing your strengths, your fears, and trusting feedback you get from your experiences, and accepting yourself in those situations where you find yourself to experience things that you may want to go harder at yourself and say, oh, I may not be, when you are going hard at yourself, not forgiving yourself, something happened and you're blaming yourself too much, you're eating yourself, all your days filled with thought of what has happened, and you can't let go and all of that. So it helps how authenticity can help you to forgive yourself is the fact that you already know, you're aware of yourself, and you are also accepting yourself for who you are and the situation as it comes. So
that brings me to the question. So looking at when you talk about forgiveness in general, there's an aspect there's an atom of guilt that warrants that forgiveness. So how does prolonged guilt, how does it affect one's ability to be authentic?
If you look at it from just the layman's way of looking at the definition, you will notice something. Guilt is something that you feel, right? Now, sometimes we feel guilty for actions that weren't caused by us.
Right.
If somebody took advantage of you, you feel stupid, you feel guilty, you feel bad that you feel stupid. You were stupid enough to fall for it, right? There comes the saying, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, now shame on me, right? Yeah. And that's where we have to be careful when we look at guilt. Guilt prevents us from growing because it puts us in a victim mindset. We become victims. We see ourselves as victims. And when you see yourself as a victim, you feel powerless.
True.
So if you stay too long, it's natural that something happens to you, or you made a bad decision, or you did something against your own interest and you feel bad about it. Well, yeah, you didn't make the best decision, or you forgive yourself. And if you learn from your mistakes or things you've been through, the chances of that reoccurring or happening on a reoccurring basis are limited because you're learning. If you don't learn, and there's some people that don't learn from their experiences, so the guilt comes like, I keep making the same mistake. It's you not loving yourself. When you love yourself enough, you become more authentic because this is who I am. You become a more pleasant person. You become caring. You become an advocate for growth and change. But when you don't learn, then guilt sets in. You feel stupid, you feel like you're not worthy, then you don't self-love. Self-love and self-care is the most important thing because it lays a foundation for you to be authentic. It lays a foundation for you to grow. It becomes a launching pad. I'm not going to conform to society demands. I'll be honest. This is who I am. I'm a loving, caring person. I'm not going to act like I don't have feelings because I have feelings, right? So how does guilt impact your, self-forgiveness? Well, if you feel bad and you're always feeling bad, and like you said, if you can transition from this is an occurrence, I'll prevent it from happening in the future, I've learned from this experience, then there's a chance that it will repeat itself and it becomes a cycle. What we're trying to do in order to grow is to break cycles of bad occurrences, or not even bad, of every occurrence is everything you think is bad is a teachable moment.
Of occurrences that make you at least feel or give you a negative impact.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. From what you said now, okay, let's look at instances where.
So I wanted to add something about the prolonged guilt to your question.
Yeah, it's still within the same
So I can add it together.
Yeah, exactly. So now, there are situations where an action is taken, having considered every possible option available at that point in time. Now, would you say, can one actually use that as a cop-out or as an excuse?
You do the best that you could.
Right. And I agree. As an excuse for what? Sorry.
For guilt. And then
So, your question first, and this that you just asked, and you said something. So, we were saying, how does prolonged guilt
affect one's authenticity?
Yes. So, prolonged guilt can translate into self-punishment.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
That is what it means. So that's after a while, you start punishing yourself because you just guilty. You blame yourself all through that stretch of time, and you can drive that way for so long that you can even destroy your life or yourself.
Like letting the past destroy the future.
Right. So self-forgiveness is not minimizing the mistake at all. It is just freeing yourself from the self-punishment that comes with it. So if we can try as much as possible to understand that prolonged guilt is going to translate into self-punishment, we're going to be stopped and we're doing it to ourselves. And it's not of any service to us. We can quickly, either by help of talking to people or reading books or watching things that will help you take your attention out of what you're experiencing based on what you're causing for yourself, punishing yourself. We can go back to our authentic self. And every day is a fresh start, regardless of how any one human being approaches a new brand new day. It is a fresh start. It is an opportunity for you to refresh in the leading edge of the evolution of our existence. So if we see that every day is an opportunity to forge ahead and not live in the past. So living in the past, holding yourself, that prolonged guilt, punishing yourself, it's clouding all your reasoning for every passing day of your life. That's where it's in Nigeria, we used to say, "Oh, you're living in bondage." But bondage, they think it's something external that somebody's causing it for you. But bondage is you.
It's a mental.
It's a mental yes,
prison.
It's a mental prison.
Yeah, it's a mental prison. You are the one putting yourself in that bondage by the way your thoughts process is going every day. So you wanted to say something?
Yeah, you're right. It's what prolonged guilt does is it puts you in a time capsule.
Right.
And I'm sure we've all seen movies where people keep reliving the same day.
Yes.
They wake up, something happens, they die or something.
But again, you have to understand it's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
So if you can keep
You
going that
cycles
driving
are
the
the
wave
hardest
of that
things.
cycle, Yeah, you can
The
get
hardest
that.
thing to break is right. We are all trying to break a cycle in
Right.
one way, shape, or form. So if you keep yourself in a time capsule, then you lock yourself. You're trapped between that. So it's like it's like going through a revolving door, right?
Correct.
And instead of going out, you just keep going. It's like a hamster on the wheel. Yeah, it's logical for us to see a hamster running and like, why don't you just get off the wheel? And life stops. And but the hamster doesn't see a way out. And like you said, you can go to therapy, you can talk to people, giving yourself grace. And forgiveness truly is not when something is done to you. Forgiveness is not for them.
No,
It's for you. Because being angry and punishing yourself is like drinking poison, expecting somebody out there to die. Right?
That's very good advice.
It's crazy, but we all do
do
it.
it. Yeah.
And we have to break out of those cycles and tell ourselves, you know what? I'm forgiving myself. I wasn't. Yeah, and you're right. You may have looked at all the part, and I do that because I could be having a conversation with someone, and while we're talking, I'm having 3 to 5 different conversations within that conversation. And depending on what they say, I know what to say next. I can predict where we're going with this conversation. But I can't. I'm just one person. I can't see all possible options. You did the best that you could, and it still didn't go your way. You know what? Then there's a lesson to be learned. You learn the lesson, and I promise you, there's chances of the cycle repeating itself as slim to none. If you don't learn the lesson, it will repeat itself.
Correct.
Right? Everything is
Cyclical.
cyclical. Yeah, like we live in a world, the universe works in a very strange ways, and everything is based on cycles.
Right.
And once you break a cycle, you advance. If you don't break the cycle, everything. People are stuck in cycles without even knowing. Oh, every 5 years, something that happens to you. Well, that's a cycle. You're just not aware of it. Maybe first year you lost a parent, and the next 5 years again, you're married, and then your job, and then you lost your food, snow skiing or something. If you look at your life and you really pay attention, look at when things go right, look at when things go wrong. Start going back. You'll start to notice there's a cycle. When things go right, there's usually a cycle. When things go wrong, there's usually a cycle. The goal is to break that cycle and advance.
Yes.
Become master of your own thoughts, master of your own domain.
Yes, and I agree with you. Like the yin and yang analogy of life, of how there's positive and negative at the same time happen. So we can hold ourselves to the negative for as long as we want to drive that wave. In as much as we're doing that, we should also remember that there's positive that we can hold ourselves to and drive the wave. It can be hard, like it's easier said than done, that's what people say. But it's still the easiest way to focus on the positive aspect than the negative, because it will not do you any good to focus on the negative. Because no solution is going to come out of it. If you keep driving, because what you're going to do to yourself is to expect the worst all the time. So if you're locked in that kind of mentality or thought process of always, like you gave an example, somebody lost a parent this year, and you're stuck in the pain and grief. Grief is not easy. Everybody knows that it takes time for it to come out, but some people can ride it forever, and that's why you hear a husband dies this year, the wife dies the next year, and the wife was very healthy, but she had got stuck in losing her husband, and she cannot move past that. And that boils down to self-compassion, you understand? It is not that you're giving excuses. It is that you are acknowledging the fact that we are imperfect with love. So acknowledging imperfection with love, that's the self-compassion, and it helps ease you out of the trauma, the stuck in being negative and going back to your real self. Because our true self, the way it should be is exhilaration. Yes, we should feel good. No. That's the true being. You as a creation, as a being, your natural state should be exhilaration. It should be out of. It should not be. There shouldn't be negativity clouding anything you're going through or experiencing. So that self-compassion, understanding that we're all imperfect and imperfection, um, it's not unique to only oneself, but to everybody, and that we can be nice to ourselves even if we've experienced setback.
Sure.
And try to, and just as you will console or be compassionate to someone who is going through stress or anything in life, the same way we should also do to ourselves too, so that you can't even give what you don't have. Right.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
So if you're stuck in a certain cycle that is not doing service to you, how do you help that other person? Even your immediate family, your spouse, your child, or anything, it all bleeds down to them, and everybody's just one.
Yeah. So let me piggyback on on what you just talked about, perfection. So I, for one, I think like I said, nobody's perfect. It's a constant here, kind of. But I think the word perfection is subjective, and which brings me back to how does one, or how can one actually, how can one actually grow in terms of self-forgiveness? Like me, let me make myself an example. Now, I know for one, I'm guilty of mistaking self-forgiveness for shutting myself out of the world. Like, just ignoring everybody else, trying to wallow in my sins and see, how can I better myself? Now, in some cases, I want to say it works in the sense of it helps me wallow in this, because they say sometimes when you cry, you let a little bit of pain out.
Sure.
Now, wallowing in my sin, I can't really tell if it helps me, but everybody around me looks at me like, come on, you're killing yourself. Now, how can one actually grow in terms of self-forgiveness, realizing that, because you've talked to them about it, how can one actually grow? Like, what are the steps necessary to actually walk out of that cycle you're talking about?
Well, I guess you have to ask yourself a question. What has happened has happened. You can't turn back the hands of time, right? The wheel of time crushes us all. And it sounds morbid, but it's really the truth. There's one thing we don't have. From the moment you took your first breath, the countdown begins. So you punishing yourself and saying, you're a fool, you let this happen, how could you let this happen? It has happened. What has happened has happened. You can't let the sins of yesterday destroy the future of tomorrow. I mean, you do that and your life, you'll be miserable at all times. You have to look at yourself and say, why? Because when we self-harm, whether physically, mentally, it's coming from the same place. Lack of self-love. Because there's a little child in us that doesn't feel worthy, right? You don't feel worthy of something, whether it's the environment you grew up, your parent, it doesn't matter where it came from, but it's here. And you need to look at yourself and say, I didn't know better, or I knew better, and I still went ahead and I did that, right? And I need to understand that I am not my actions. I am not my actions, right? I've done things, but that's not me. And you have to give yourself some grace. And sometimes it's going to therapy. Sometimes it's just saying, I deserve better. I need to love myself more than my pain. Everyone goes through pain in life. It's just life. We all live life. Something's going to happen that throws you off course. And we talked about resilience and the ability to bounce back and all these things. You have to love yourself more than your pain. You have to see yourself, when you think you are a being of higher quality and you're striving to be your best self, there's certain things you don't do. You don't go out late at night in areas you know you could get injured or hurt. You don't engage with certain people that are criminals because you understand, I love myself enough that I don't want to go to jail. I don't want that life, right? You become more confident, you become more pleasant, you're just a being, you are able to regulate your emotions because you understand, not that you don't have emotional outbursts once in a while, but your emotions don't rule you. You're not a passenger and your emotions is in the driver's seat, right? And you just understand, I'm better than this. I will be better than this. I will do better. And it's different from individual to individual. For you, it could be calling him and saying, hey, I did this. And I don't know why I keep doing this. And it's like, then you have to change. Choose a better path. For somebody else, it could be meditations. Somebody else could be going to therapy. But when you see something you're doing wrong, you need to love yourself more than pleasing other people. Oftentimes, we do things wrong because we're trying to please people that don't care. Yeah, you're trying to please people that don't care. Yeah, why are you pleasing someone that doesn't care about you? And social media has made it even worse where you see something out there like this person is driving a Lamborghini. I don't even want a Lamborghini in the first place. But now I'm killing myself day and night to get a, and now I have the Lamborghini, and I'm like, I don't like this car. So why live your life based on other people's standards?
Well, not that you won't even like it. Maybe you will like it, but there will be something more that you can't stop desiring. There will be something more that you will like better than it after a while of driving it. So
if it's not true to who you are, and we see this with athletes and celebrities, and they come in and they work so hard and make all this money, and then they're still miserable, and people are like, I want to be wealthy like that guy. I'm like, but that guy's in therapy and is taking drugs and medication, all these things, and they're talking about how they're struggling mentally, and people are still not learning. You have your idols and the people you look up to, and they're telling you about their struggle. And I wish more celebrities would do it. Tell people about their struggles. It is hard. Because you see their life, you see them in the fancy cars and the house and the fancy partners and all these expensive looking trips. But then on some occasions they will tell you how lonely it is at the top. How they wish they had the family that you have that you've taken for granted. How they wish they could go out with friends and actually sit down and have a nice meal because they work all the time. So
it's just like people see the result, but they don't know the struggle.
They're not the struggle. You don't want the struggle either.
And that's what you said. Yeah, it's what you said too. So, and it's not bad because that's how how humans are built to be attracted to the good things of life. It is not bad. The only, like I said, this you and most of us here listen to spiritual leaders talking about our desires are our karma. Because the more you want something, the more you desire something, you already also know that it takes something to get it. So, and when you put yourself in a place where you desire something too much, you also have to consider the fact that you have to do some certain things to get them. And when that, when it's not hard to do the things you need to do to get what you want, that's where the discomfort comes in.
And that misalignment.
Yes, misalignment comes in. And so it now comes to us as the karma that we always face all the time, because that's the pain we get from acknowledging the fact that you have to do this thing together, and it's not easy, but you got to do it. So, and since starting this podcast together, as a group here, as hosts here, it has added to my wanting to always get up every morning, and also when we have the time to record, show up and want to talk about what we talk about, because what we talk about, I'm happy about most of our topics because they're relatable, not just that, to all humans, and they are connected So we talked about
Most importantly,
most important, and that's why the last episode I talked about we're in a universe that is in a cosmic dance, that everything is connected, and we've talked about motivation, we've talked about resilience, and we're talking about authenticity and self-love, and how as we can see how all what we're talking about are relating, and it's not like it's even planned. Some of them are just coming and sinking to each other. And you just said it too, that resilience, you need self-love. You need to be able to forgive yourself.
If you can't forgive yourself, it's hard to bounce back from anything.
Yeah, you can't be resilient, you can't be motivated without forgiving yourself and being your authentic self. And why I say this is because we observe, experience, perceive, and translate the way we can and put it out there is dependent on what we say to ourselves internally.
The internal dialogue.
So internal dialogue. So
Oh, yeah.
mindful self-talk. So yes, because that is essential. That's how we deduce experiences and interpret it to ourselves to take the right action. So even when we're sleeping and we're dreaming, we're still talking to ourselves. And that is so crucial and essential that the way you talk to yourself matters a lot. And what you're telling yourself matters
a lot.
because it drives your actions.
Yeah, it becomes your
It drives,
subconscious.
yes, it's
Becomes
your
your program.
subconscious. Yes,
And which
runs
runs
deep.
a lot.
I'm
When
not
you
using
sleep.
I'm trying to be as light as possible and not go philosophical deeply into subconsciousness or consciousness as a whole.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a different topic.
Yeah.
So that's mindful self-talk, very essential to being able to forgive yourself. Going back, forgiving yourself, how it relates to drawing you back, because we don't always go back to our authentic self. That's the only way we can be of good service to any other human being.
That's the only way you can live
To
life
yourself.
to the fullest.
To yourself, yes, and to any other human being. Like I said, you can't give what you don't have. So that is very essential. So, what kind of thing do you say to yourself? Okay, so like when I wake up in the morning, this is just me. I take 10 deep breaths in and out. And while I do that, I tell myself that this is a fresh, brand new day. Everything has happened yesterday. Today is an opportunity for me to refresh and see from a different perspective. A pure, clean slate of perspective that I don't want to taint with whatever has happened in the past. So I'm always looking for the positive aspect of the day because, like we said, we all agree that there's in the world as it is like this, right now, right here, everywhere, at this time, positive equates negative. So it depends on which one you want to focus on. So we can make it a thing or a duty in the morning, waking, because we all know that if the new morning is a fresh start. So we can make it a duty. I'm answering your question. You said what tactics, what can we do?
Yeah,
We can make it a duty to acknowledge the fact that this is a new day. I'm not going to rub into negativity. I'm not going to rub this day off with stupid negativity. I'm just looking for the positive aspect because you can also ride that wave the same way you will ride negativity wave.
Mhm.
And I bet you your experiences are always going to be different. When I do that, I'd say, I know the universe is always working to my favor in the morning. I may not see it, but I know something good is around the corner for this day. That's it. When I leave, when I do that, I drink water and That's it. I'm trying to always remember what I said the first thing, my first waking up moment. It's all about positivity. It's all about making sure I'm achieving my goals and doing everything. Because the next thing is I'm going to work, right? So my head is already clean and open for looking. I'm looking for all the positive aspects that's going to make me drive the wave throughout the day and not experience negativity in that sense. So what you tell yourself every day from the moment you wake up can last through the day, and it drives our emotions.
Yes,
It drives our feelings.
starting with a
emotions.
higher vibration, right? And another thing, I'll say something real quick before I pass it on to you. What do you tell you? How do you get out of it? See everything that happens in your life as an opportunity to learn about yourself, an opportunity to become your better self. Because when things happen that are not, you keep going back to the yin yang sign.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call attention to that. If you look at this, the symbol itself, it's typical to white and then black.
Yeah.
But within the black, there's a white.
Yeah.
Within the white, there's a black, which
Yeah.
signifies even in good, when something good, what we consider good happens,
Right.
there could be a negative aspect. There could be
Oh,
something
yes.
negative in there. And when something bad happens, the white, there could be something positive in there. And when you think about it that way, because something is good to you doesn't mean it's good to
So I was going to say, I was going to add and second your statement when you use the analogy of the yin yang and saying that something, there could be a good experience, there could also be a
There could be something
negative
tainted.
connotation
Yeah.
to it. And that's just how all human beings are made. So we can be experiencing the same thing. You can be exhilarated about your experience, and I can not.
Yeah. And
For different reasons.
And I'll say this, I believe, and I truly believe this, that all humans, we are all looking at the same picture from different lenses.
Yes.
So your lens could be, you could have a colored lens, mine could be clear, mine could have smudges over,
Right.
mine could have prints and food particles on mine, but we're looking at the same picture. But what you see isn't exactly what I see. And the angles at which you're looking at the picture also changes your experience. So everyone is experiencing the same thing. What I mean by the lens is how you think, how you view yourself. And you've said in the last podcast, perspective versus perception. How you see yourself dictates how you present yourself in the real world.
Sure.
It really does. If you see yourself as a loser, then other people will feel. People may not even see that to begin with, but you start vibrating at that frequency, and everyone starts seeing you loser. No matter what you do, people are like, it's not good enough. It's never good enough. So if you can't forgive yourself, you can't be authentic because you're constantly trying to please the world around you. And eventually you start to vibrate at a frequency that everyone picks up subconsciously without them even. It's why animals, when they're hunting, when predators are hunting, what the first do is scan. And based on how the animals are moving, they start saying certain things. And oftentimes it's not what they're seeing. It's based on how the energy they're receiving from the prey that's the one. That's the weakest link. Because they don't always go after the youngest, sometimes they go after the oldest.
Yes, and I agree exactly with what you're saying. And this is going to bust a lot of yours head. What I'm going to say is that every human being has the way they think they should be or are being perceived by the world. You understand? Every human being has it. You have how you think you should be perceived and how you think you're being perceived. Those two, that's where the fight between those two for every human being. That's where we have the issues of trying to, live in either by how your authentic self or by people's expectation. So, and then how people see you is different
It's
from
totally
those
different
two
from
things
those
you're
two.
thinking about.
Very true.
Those two, right?
Yeah.
That is, you see, those two we are thinking about. How people now see you is different from what, yes, you are thinking about. So you see it now. So it can be very crazy. How the dynamics of how people think can affect you externally, or how you can think about yourself can affect you internally by yourself. And it all boils down to the fact that how we can relate what I just said to what we're discussing about is still goes back to mindful thought. So because when you're authentic, when you're your true self, it is actually seen by the world the way it should be.
Your intention.
Your intentions. When you're your true self, you're one in unison with your inner being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're in exhilaration state. It's hard. Nobody can mistake that. No one can mistake that from outside, how you should be. So that's why we are buttressing the fact that your authentic self is the most important. That's the way that when you need to communicate with someone and get something from them, doesn't mean cheating them or anything. Like you need something done quickly. The level of understanding when you are in your authentic self is faster because what the person is perceiving is your true self, and the information that's going through to the person that you're trying to pass through to the person is received properly without any tainting of perceptions. I'm not going to say perspective because perception, the person you're talking to has the way they're thinking and they have their perception on how what you're telling them is or how they're going to take that. So if you're in your true self, it's kind of, what I'm trying to explain is kind of psychological and spiritual. You understand? We hear of people communicating telepathically. So I don't have to say anything, but I can see you and I can, yes, it's flowing, but it can only flow if we're in our true authentic self. And most times it doesn't mean, people think about telepathy as something like very abstract.
Witchcraft.
Yes, or witchcraft. Or very, very far-fetched that I can't wrap my mind around not talking verbally to somebody, but I'm passing on information.
Yeah, because I've done it with my twin.
We don't want to even go there.
Yeah, so I know it's possible.
It's possible because I have my own experience of telepathy.
Yeah.
That if we start going in deeply, the podcast is not going to sound like
Telepathy is even going like way too far. Just even consider ventriloquism. How
right.
that works too.
Right. But I want to bring it very close so that they can even understand, like people can understand it well just because I've experienced it, you've experienced it, and you can also feel like it. Sometimes, telepathy, it doesn't mean we have to be sitting down seeing ourselves here. You may be in your house there, and it happened even as yesterday. It happened for me. It happened for me. But I know, I'm just going with that. In this setting where we're seeing ourselves, but we can be communicating without even talking. It's out of your countenance. We cannot. That one now is like, I'm looking at him now. He's very relaxed. I'm looking at you. You're very relaxed. I'm like, we can just be here and be looking and saying something. But we're nodding heads each other.
Like sometimes if I want to pass a message, I just like look at the
right.
Then you get the message.
You get the message. We're communicating, although this is body language, this is countenance, we're seeing each other. But if you can understand that it's somewhat like it, you understand? It's somewhat like it when they say telepathy. And sometimes it is not, it could be misconstrued when we're not in our authentic self.
True.
You understand? It could be misconstrued. So if when we started this podcast, I came up with so grumpy and I'm complaining about everything that happened at home. I'm looking at my time. What you maybe deducing may be that I need to get out of here,
Yeah.
even if it may just even be a voluntary action. Or involuntary action. So I just looked at my time. But because I've complained so much when I first came here, it's already in everybody's mind that this guy is not. He was facing something before he came here. So anything I see without you talking, I'm already attaching to your experience of what you were facing from the home. You understand?
Yeah.
And you can never really be that.
True.
So you see that. So you can say
What I was going to say, I was just going to chime in on telepathy, and everyone has experienced it.
Yes.
And I can
Whether
say
they
that
know
for
it or they
a fact,
don't know it. Yes.
because you this has happened to you. You're thinking of someone they call you, or you're thinking about
That was even just yesterday.
you're just thinking about something, and you're driving or you're somewhere, and then you see, you're like, oh, I was hoping I would, and then here it is. But the one most people experience is you're thinking about a person, and then your phone rings saying like, I was just thinking about it like a few seconds ago. Yeah, because science has now, in the process.
No, they
Right?
have. No, it's not.
No, in the
It's
sense
not
that,
very clear.
in the sense that
science,
everything is energy.
it is clear. They can now see it. How to
Yeah,
That
but
is-
not everyone still
will
buys
understand
it
to that extent.
to that extent. But when you think about it, according to science, everything is energy, right? Whether it's kinetic or it's potential, everything is in constant negotiation. We're vibrating. Whether it's small or it's large, but there's a vibration that happens with everything. And if everything is energy, and that energy can neither be destroyed nor created, it can only be changed from one form to another. So which means we are all connected. So telepathy is not, I'm not going to get to
it like something alarming or like you said, like out of the water abstract.
Exactly. So now if we go back to what we've been talking about, which is self-forgiveness, which ties into self-love, self-care, and being authentic. If you can't love yourself, you can't forgive yourself, right? And in some instances, it's like, I did this, I forgive myself here, I can't forgive myself. But think about it this way. If you cannot love yourself, how can you expect somebody else to love you? How can you expect to receive love? Because people can't, there's so many people out there that are loved, but they can't receive love. You can't receive love because you don't love yourself. If you're not authentic, it's hard to love yourself. If you're not authentic, it's hard to receive love.
It's hard to
Because you're always looking at what it's out there, or I should be that person, I should be this way. Like, I'm guessing some people will ask, well, what if I'm authentic and I'm just a jerk? Are you really authentic? Are you really authentic? Or do you think you need to be a jerk to get your way?
Are you really an authentic jerk?
Yeah, no, truly. Because when you're in alignment, everything feels comfortable. Everything
Right.
feels
There's
natural.
A flow.
You're in a flow state.
Yes.
The universe is always going to look for the path of the least resistance.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not authentic, you're not aligned. Because the universe could be saying, swim this way, and you're saying, I'm swimming upstream. The universe is like, why? But this is downstream. The current will carry you to your destination. And in life, we don't achieve things because we're constantly swimming upstream against the current. So,
and the way the universe works, because it's we hear about the free will thing. So, like you give that analogy of you should be swimming downstream, or you choose to swim upstream. Well, the universe is not going to block you because there's this and that, and you just choose what you want.
it's the lesson to the nation.
So it's not going to ever block you. It's going to allow you, man, drive the wave. as long as you want to.
It makes it harder to get to
Yes,
When you're
something is
tired,
gonna
you
take.
come back.
Yeah, something's gonna take, and maybe when it takes, you understand that there could be this one too. That I can still go that way, and that's how it happens to every human being, and it happens to me when you can catch yourself. Then that's the realization point. You say, "Oh, man, I'm just on this wave of man. It can never be done. But what about this? It can." So yeah, recapping on what we said we should embrace our truth. Be compassionate to ourselves, and listen. To your self talk. It has to be mindful. We have to know what we're telling ourselves. And again, to your question about how can we do so, let's not just be talking about, oh, this is what can we do to actually help us be authentic and self-forgive. You understand? So to me, I would say to people who are not in the habit of practicing mindful self-talk to themselves, can because I agree to that saying that really people you can help people think. That's the hardest thing to do. You can never help people. You can wish that you can do that for people, but it can never happen. But as we discuss all these topics and our experiences and how what we've done has helped us to this point, and we're still learning too, I would urge people who are finding it hard to self-forgive themselves to take a piece of paper or a journal or something and write something good about yourself that you want to drive the wave upon. And remember that when you're going through guilt, prolonged guilt, which can translate into self-sabotage and punishment, that you've also felt a very good way when something happened or a circumstance happened that you felt that when you drove that wave, you drove it to the extent that you felt the best ever. It could be written because sometimes when you write, it sticks than just saying, just assuming. Sometimes when you write it down, oh, this is what I want to do today to get myself to there's a point, like everybody else has to have that point where, like you say, you can dwell on negativity the whole full day. Well, what is a control or a check mark? Like, what do you see? What can you put in place to be able to catch you or catch yourself and say, oh, I'm thinking this thing about this negative experience too much that I know that I can also think positively about this experience in the same way that will make me feel better than the way I feel now. So that, I would say, is one way we can try to get back to our authentic self when we're in a prolonged state of guilt.
That's pretty interesting. Like you said, like from everything you guys have said, I see that you guys are driving at the same point, like trying to show that it's a conscious effort to actually try and achieve that self-forgiveness. And one more thing I'd add to it is guilt. Most people see guilt as the enemy, as the bad guy. Yeah. They don't see it they don't see it in positive light, like as a sign to want to self-repair, which actually leads to this, which actually starts from self-forgiveness, then the persistence. Because I see this self-forgiveness is an ongoing process, like depending on what's trauma or what's causes the guilt. So it depends. It's actually the route to self-repair differs from guilt to guilt, but not going through the right path always results in the same self-hatred.
Correct.
Yes, and I always want to drive it down at home that from personal experience and even people that are close to me, friends and family, that have experienced them suffering due to self sabotage or self punishment or self guilt. No matter how it can feel hard to try to take yourself out of that feeling of that guilt.
I was going to ask that, but we don't have time for that.
No matter how it can feel hard, that's what I'm saying. From experience and with family, it's still going to at all times. From my experience, it has always been better when you are able to bring yourself out of that and see things in a positive light. So it can be hard. We're all humans. We feel things. We have emotions. All saying this thing, discussing like this, is not going to solve a lot of people's problems. Guilt tripping themselves and self-punishing themselves. It's not going to save anybody, but I'm still going to stand on that fact and drill down on that. The point where you change, where you start feeling good, remember that point. That was when you started seeing it in a positive light, your situation.
True.
In a positive light. So the earlier you can drag yourself out of it, is still the better situation out of everything. Some people take forever, but it changes, and the moment in time it changes, we always acknowledge that time is when we start seeing things different, in a different positive light, and that's when you start feeling better.
That brings me to this last question. It can be very, like you said, sometimes it can be very, very hard to actually see past through that guilt.
What you're experiencing at that time.
Yeah, I don't know everybody else, but I am one of them. Yeah.
But if we have to be true to ourselves, when our experience change or the way we feel change, it is when we started seeing it in a different light.
Well, you have to think about it. And you said something about how can we see guilt in a positive light. Now, I'll say two things. The first thing is acceptance.
That was my question.
That was the question you asked prior.
Yeah.
Is acceptance. You accept what
Correct.
has happened
Exactly.
as what has happened.
Exactly.
Acceptance is the first step in getting out of that dark place. But the truth about guilt is a sign that you have a conscience. Guilt is a sign that you want to do better. You want to be, because people that don't care about being better don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
There's no guilt. There is, and that's why when we look at certain, and I'm not going to go in depth into this, but there's certain people that don't have that. They don't feel guilty. They don't feel bad about anything, and we know how those people freak us out as normal human beings. We are freaking.
It's sort of a control. Human control.
Yeah, and when you don't have those things in place, you're off, right? We know you're off. So if you feel guilty about something, it is a way that it should be a reminder that you want to be better than that. And
it is a human phenomenon, the guilt.
Yeah, but it's not meant to punish you.
Yeah.
It's meant to show you that you can be better. Well, I've been through this. Next time I'll be better. I'll be, it shows you that you can elevate yourself to a much higher place.
Course correction.
Yeah.
It's meant for course correction.
It's not meant as a punishment, like I'm going to self-destruct. It's when you see guilt as I need to punish myself, as opposed to, well, this is a sign I can be better and I'll be better. Now, if you don't choose to be better, then that's a different story.
Right.
But your guilt is not there to punish you. It's there to show you where you could improve, and it's there to show you that you can be better and you will be better if you choose that path. So it's not. It's funny that we all use guilt as just the way your ego is not there to make you feel larger than life. Your ego has a purpose. And oftentimes it's bruised and you feel guilty and you feel worthless and all these things, and everything ties into one another. But to answer your question, don't see guilt as
that was not a question.
No.
I was going to go to your question.
You mentioned something earlier, and that's what I'm answering. So I'll let you ask your last question.
Do you have something to say? Real quick?
Oh, well, it's to what we were saying. So, like you said, guilt is, to me personally, I see it as a control. And like we said, if we agree that of every situation, of every circumstances, there's a positive and a negative light to it. It just depends on where you want to focus on.
You may be too bruised. You may
Yes.
be too bruised for you to want to see positive.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I said guilt there is not, that feeling of guilt is not to minimize the mistake or whatever you did that's making you feel that way. It's just for you not to make it transform into sabotage, into self punishment. That is it. Because we can drive the wave of the negative aspect of being guilty and self sabotage and self punish and be in bondage for as long as we want. But we can also say, oh, this experience is making me feel this way.
It's taught me
To be, yes, the learning part of it. Just like I said, keep saying, that's why I enjoy. I say this podcast is something that's added to my purpose or my willingness to wake up the next morning and keep at it. Because all we talk are relatable and connected. So, yeah, we were saying.
Okay, so now my final question, and I want you guys to respond to it briefly so that we can wrap up. How does being vulnerable play into authenticity and self-forgiveness? Either positive or negative light.
Well, I think we've attached such a negative connotation. We see being vulnerable as a weakness. Being vulnerable is actually a strength. In my opinion, it's a strength.
Not in all cases.
Well, think about it this way.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say just 1 or 2, 3 words and then I will leave it to you because I know the thought is there and you have to put it. Vulnerable, like again, I still reiterate every word, diction, words, right? Vocabulary, words. We are driven by our understanding of language, English, any spoken language. And that like it or not, man, that's what is shaping our life, really. Because when you're given instructions by language and you have to understand it, and whether it's going to be good to you or not, you just have to understand how things work. And sometimes you have to read the instructions. Sometimes somebody has to say it to you. But the understanding of what they're saying is what you understand drives the result of your actions or whatever you're going to take or whatever you're going to do. So vulnerable is a word in itself. There's a positive again, the reiteration. There's a negative. Where are you choosing to stay? Are you going to choose to stay in the positive part of that word? In a sense, in reality of what it means, or the negative part. So we continue.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that to agree with you that vulnerability is not
It's not. We've attached a lot of things
negativity to it.
to a lot of things that we shouldn't have.
We shouldn't.
Being vulnerable is just being vulnerable.
And it's
The meaning you attach to it is entirely up to you.
the negative. Nobody's saying sorry. I'm always I keep joking because it's so interesting and what you're saying is making sense. Because like you see what you just said makes a lot of sense. In as much as possible that we can hold on to the negative part of vulnerability, we also forget that we can also hold on to the positive
Oh yeah, absolutely.
as well. Generation past, we've been trained in a way that we're filled with negativity. Like we're limiting thoughts. Limiting thoughts. We're always limited. Yes.
Right. The human brain is designed to keep you alive. And nothing keeps you alive than being in fear. Negative things keep you alive. Having negative in a way, it's you don't live your best life, but think about it. Our ancestors could not just be frolicking on the beach, knowing that there's a possibility a tiger or a lion is coming to hunt them. You have to think that I'm going in the jungle, there could be a tiger there. So now you're conscious of everything moving. Mind you, by the time you see a tiger, it's already tracked you for a while.
Yeah.
The time you see a tiger, if it wants to attack you, you'll be in the process of getting attacked.
Right.
If a tiger is not attacking you and you see it, it's chosen not to, right? So when you think about vulnerability, think about the good aspect, the good things that come out of being vulnerable. It is, and I'm not a clinical psychologist or therapist, but there's one thing I do know: you cannot experience love, you cannot receive or give love fully unless you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because when you put two people together, and this is something you hear people talk, this person was never really my type, and when something happened and we just started talking, they became vulnerable. Why do most affairs happen? There's a level of vulnerability that happens, and you open up. So, and I hate to say it, you don't want to get into an affair. Don't become vulnerable around people that you don't. There's a level, you can be vulnerable, but to a certain degree. If you're not vulnerable, you cannot receive love. And this consequently, you can't give love. Because in order to be in love, I can love you, you can love your partner, but not be in love with your partner. To be in love, you have to be vulnerable. Because your willingness to get hurt is directly proportional to your willingness to get hurt. That's vulnerability. If I'm going to love you to the end of the world, I need to be willing to accept that you have the level, you have the power to hurt me to that extent. If I'm going to love you this much, then I need to accept that you can hurt me this much, right? And when you accept that, then you experience love.
Right.
And if you've never been vulnerable, I can tell you, you've never been in love, period. Because your willingness to get hurt is here. How can you experience love? Because you have to say, I'm leaving it all on the table.
And in some cases, not just only love, that means you've never achieved something before. Let me say this. A lot of people attach or equate vulnerability with risk.
So at the point, it is a risk. But anything what happened is what fighting for.
And they're not wrong. And that's true. So that's why I said if you've not achieved something, you go what achieve. If you've not been vulnerable, probably you've not achieved the goal, and that's it. Almost everybody has achieved the goal. So even if they argue that they were not vulnerable, they were, maybe they don't know, or they're not agreeing to it. So in essence, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that being vulnerable doesn't necessarily mean attaching all the negative aspects of it, of taking risks to vulnerability. You understand? So you hit the nail on the head when you say if you're not vulnerable, you can't love someone. Because even there are things I've done work everywhere, even with friends. Some people would step back and look at me, and some would ask like what soap do you use? Like, no, that's just jokes. They say that who will give you soap, who will use bath? Like, what soap are you using? And what they're trying to say in essence, or some say which Baba did it for you. You understand? Like what I'm saying in essence is the result of me being vulnerable in many occasions has made me rise to a certain level that people see me and think I did something out of the world. They're like, they can't understand.
Because you connect deeper.
How I am achieving all this, and they can't fathom it because they're seeing all these blockages that it seems I'm not seeing, or I'm just invisible and passing through all of that. And sometimes I just come down and say, yeah, Because sometimes it is what people that do the things that people don't want to do succeed a lot more, better. And it's because they're vulnerable to be able to not be like vulnerability doesn't mean stupidity. It just means you're open to whatever the outcome is going to be, and I'm ready
Hoping for the best.
to learn from
Whatever.
the outcome.
Whatever
I'm
that
not
is.
gonna hold to what I know or whatever I'm tied to, whatever is tied to my emotion about the negative aspect of what I'm about to do. But I'm gonna do it, and whatever comes out of it, I'm either gonna learn either way.
But I want to say something. You said something. I'll chime in real quick.
So
Let you continue.
before you guys continue, please can you try and tie it to the topic at hand?
Yeah.
So that way we can wrap up.
Yeah. So the being vulnerable, like you said, I'll say this and I'll tie it back real quickly. Right? Being vulnerable, yes, and it's a risk. But again, there's nothing wrong with risks. There's really nothing wrong with taking a risk. Life is a risk. So why not take a risk and see what the future
Yes,
holds?
we keep taking this risk every day without even knowing.
Yeah. Right.
So why are you worried so much about it?
Yeah. What are you so afraid of?
You can't control some circumstance. We gave an excuse of some people sitting in their living room and the trailer just drive and kill everybody.
Truck comes
They
and
did
kills
not
the entire
do anything
family.
wrong. They weren't speeding on the road and they had an accident. They weren't jumping off a cliff. They weren't doing anything. Anything sitting here can be
And that's
risky.
what can happen.
Right.
So your question is,
Right, so-
how does it vulnerability ties into self-love, self-care, forgiveness, and being authentic? Being vulnerable is saying, I'm willing to take the risk regardless of the outcome. Because
Right.
I love myself and I know who I am, which is being authentic enough. I'm confident in who I am to know that even if things don't go my way, I'll still
be
come.
fine.
I'll be fine. I'll bounce back. Right? That's the whole point of living life. Even if when things don't go your way, you
will
need to be
fine.
confident enough
Yes.
that you'll be fine. And this is what this topic conversation is all about today. Is when you know yourself, you're authentic, right? Because being authentic is being in alignment with your true self.
Yes.
So if I'm willing to give you all, and a relationship should be 100,
Yes.
not 50-50.
Not 50,
If I give you everything and you say it's not good enough, fine.
Yeah.
I know I'll be fine.
Right.
And I know and I trust in who I am, and I trust in my processes and my practices that I will take care of me and I will find someone that is of the same frequency as I am.
That's willing to receive 100% of myself.
I'm not worried about it. I'm giving you all. I'm being authentic to myself, and I'm being authentic to you as well.
Right.
And you can look back and say, you know what? He was a great guy. He just wasn't my guy. And I'm okay with
And
that.
that's fine. And
Those are remarks.
so yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
have answered.
yeah.
Oh, you answered already?
Yeah, I already answered it. I already
Sure.
answered. So you can, well, yeah, like I said, there are just these little things we can do. It's not so far fetched. It can be hard. All we've said it can feel hard to catch yourself when you're in the thick and thin of sabotage, self-punishment, guilt, long-term guilt. But there are just these little things that we can catch ourselves and draw ourselves back to being our authentic self. Like you said, mindful self-talk. What do you say to yourself? Man, I can say to myself from like there are different situations. So I'm even going to go to the hardest one. I've not experienced it because I've not had cancer, but I've seen people who've had it, and I've seen different set of people who've had it, and some people who live like you will never know that they have it because they're choosing to cling to the positive aspect of whatever they're experiencing. So there are some who will also be bedridden and have given up and have said, man, I'm just waiting for the day it's going to happen. You understand? And that's what they expect. And that's why I say you can't think for people. When you treat somebody, I did a little bit of medical work, when you learn it, when you treat somebody, it's not just the person. You have to consider the whole. In the whole in terms of psychology, the way the person thinks. If somebody is not receptive to a treatment, no matter how you pump all this medication, what they think is what they think it can hold them. Because healing is not just physical; it's also your emotions. It's also mental. It's also spiritual. So if you're rejecting the healing personally and hoping and yearning, like that saying that says, "Be careful of what you wish for." The universe is going to answer you regardless, because the both path, the positive and negative is there. You want to experience it, the negative, it's not, the universe is not going to stop you. It's going to even give you more to experience of what you want to experience. So we have to put that into consideration when all this stuff. I'm sorry, when we are trying to get ourselves back to being authentic, or to being our authentic self. Yeah.
No, I think, and I think I've said it all. I think having a positive outlook in general will do you more than harm, right? And it's not easy. It's easier said than done. We all know that, but it takes practice. Nothing comes like that. You practice. Some days you fall off. Again, that's where the self-love or grace, give yourself grace, self-compassion comes in. When you fall off, don't beat yourself to death. Pick back up. It's like falling off a bicycle. You get back on it, you keep riding. Eventually, you get good at it. It will become second nature. Everything that is second nature to you was once a foreign concept. So why not put your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health first and become the best version of yourself? It's a work in progress. So the way I see it is, be true to who you are, even when others don't think it's good enough.
And that's it, guys. We've come to the end of the show today. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And always remember, seek it as the vehicle to help you build that positive attitude towards self-forgiveness. And with that, we'll call it a day.